Lindsay, I'm so happy to have you on the Mind Your Hormones podcast. I'm obsessed with all the stuff that you do on your page, like everything, your whole mission. Like, I'm so excited to get into it. Before we get into the nitty gritty, can you just introduce yourself? Tell us like how you got into this space. What's your world like what's going on?
Sure. Well, I'm Lindsay. I'm a mother of 3 kids. I have Allie, who's 11, Coda, who is 6, and Frankie is 18 months.
Wow.
I live in Utah with my husband, Pete, and I got into this space because when I had my first daughter, I didn't really know anything about breastfeeding. Like, I didn't really have friends that were breastfeeding at the time. I'm the youngest in my family, so I was never really around it. And I didn't know how hard it was. Like, nobody talked about how difficult it was. And so like I was in a whole new world. When I had her, I was like, what is happening? Am I doing something wrong? Why didn't the doctor tell me more information? They just sent me home with this baby and didn't tell me anything about breastfeeding or even give me contacts for lactation consultants. So it felt really, really lonely.
Yeah.
Lots of nights in the middle of the night up feeding the baby in tears because I can't get her to latch properly, or I was worried she wasn't eating enough. And I mean, I have the most amazing supportive partner, but he doesn't have boobs and he can't feed the baby. So,
You can only do so
he would
much.
get up. Yeah. His useless nipples.
Yeah.
I mean, he was supportive and he'd get up and like help like get me water and stuff, but there wasn't much that he could do. And so, I mean, it's already isolating on its own, but then when you are ready to get out of the house for the first time and like go to lunch with your girlfriends or have a date night, and it's like, you bring this baby and then the baby's hungry and you're like, well, crap, what do I do? Like, I didn't even think about it. And I remember being really nervous and even asking my husband, like, can I feed her here? Like, we didn't know, we were new parents.
Right.
And I feel like I just was raised in like you are polite and you get up and you remove yourself and you go feed somewhere private. And so that's what I did with her. And it was so lonely and hard and just really different. And so I hated every minute of it. I hated breastfeeding her because of that. When I got pregnant with my son Coda, I made a promise to myself that I would have more confidence that time around and feed out in public and just go on with my day as if it was a normal day, because it is, and feed him wherever I was. And that changed everything for me. I didn't hate breastfeeding anymore. It was just easy. I could go to barbecues and I'd be in conversation with my friends and he'd get hungry. And instead of getting clammy and sweaty and leave, I would just sit right there and feed him and continue on with my conversation. And I wasn't depressed. I didn't feel isolated or lonely anymore. It was great.
Oh, and how long did you breastfeed your first daughter?
I went with Allie 18 months.
Okay, because I know you hated it. So I was like, I wonder if it was longer or shorter, like what that timeline looked like. And then with Coda,
yeah, we ended up going, he was just under 2 years.
Amazing.
And then so when I got pregnant with Frankie, I was like, oh, I want to make it to the 2-year mark. And so we're at like 19 months right now. So
Amazing.
I think we'll easily make it because she's my biggest milk monster. Like the other two self-weaned, like they were just done one day and I didn't even have to wean them. They were just done. And so with her, she's not giving it up anytime soon.
Oh, that's amazing. So, okay, I love this. And this is obviously top of mind for me. At the time that we're recording this, I'm still currently pregnant. Probably won't be by the time it airs, but these thoughts have already been like coming into my head, even though like I follow people like you and there's more people now, not as much as we need, but more people talking about, you know, being more open about it, not feeling like you have to cover yourself. And I was just having this conversation with a friend and I asked her, I was like, you know, what did you buy something to cover you in public, or like when your father-in-law's around or something, like how did you navigate that? And then I was like, I don't really feel like I want to do that. Like it must be so uncomfortable as the baby to feed under a blanket, but there's still this like thought in my head about it because of how like there's such a stigma around it. And I'm like, I don't plan on doing that, but it still is something that pops into my head, or
Yeah.
feeling like nervous about being judged, especially in public, like what you're talking about. So first of all, like,
Yeah.
where do you think this like comes from? Because other places in the world, it's like not like this. It's just like a totally normal thing. Like it's just like feeding with the bottle, you feed with your breast. Like, what's the difference? Not what's the
Yeah.
difference, obviously more nutrition, all that stuff. But I mean, like, why is it something that we judge if you're feeding with your breast then, but not if a bottle? So like,
Yeah.
where do you feel like the stigma around breastfeeding in America like came from, and why is it like not like this in the rest of the world?
I feel like because it's been so censored, like everywhere.
Mm,
Motherhood in general in America has been censored a lot. Like when we talk about childbirth, we don't really talk about childbirth and that the baby comes out of the vagina. Like it's
right.
everything here is so censored, and I don't really understand why. I mean, even in the movies, like when you think of childbirth, the first thing we think of is how traumatic it is and how painful it is, and a woman screaming uncontrollably. While
Mhm.
that can look like a birth, don't get me wrong,
Right.
there's also very, I mean, with Coda, I went unmedicated with him, and it was the most beautiful, magical
Amazing.
birth that was completely like, I felt a lot of pressure, but it wasn't, I didn't feel pain. And so I just didn't know that there were, like, we just don't see the whole entirety of motherhood at all. We just see what what is Hollywood, I feel like, shoves down us. And so
Mhm.
even like advertisements that we see, like on Facebook, for instance, like a lot of our ads get shut down. They don't even get through because they say that it's sexual and indecent content, and
Mm.
which really is infuriating, because the fact that you're seeing a mother breastfeed her baby and you're calling this sexual content is wrong.
It's
um
terrible.
but
When
then
there's
we
so much more
are,
sexual content that's actually out there that's
yes,
not
so
censored.
then you see ads for lingerie and
Right.
for swimsuits, and those are not flagged as sexual content. And so it's really disturbing, because don't get me wrong, I love the female body, it is beautiful, but they can't have that double standard, and they do. So like when we're
Right.
being raised in the world, especially our young youth right now is on social media a lot, they're seeing it's okay for a woman to show her body as as long as it's meant to be sexual, as long as it's meant to be
Mm,
pretty, as long as it's meant to be enjoyable to look at. But they're not seeing women using their bodies in the way that they were intended, because it's being centered or censored from social media. And so I think that's a
wow.
lot of it.
Wow. So messed up.
But
That must be so infuriating as like a business owner, of like you putting this content out or trying to put more content out
yeah,
about it, and there's like nothing
yeah.
sexual about it, and you can't even do it. Like, that's so
It's so
infuriating.
frustrating. And the first time like our ads would get like dinged, like flagged, we would be like, oh, it just must be a bot. Like, because they do have bots that go through
Right.
and kind of like scan your image. And if you're showing too much skin, it will flag it. And we're like, oh, it's just a bot. But as soon as we appeal it and like a real human eyes get on it, then they'll see that it's not sexual content and they'll pass it through. But even when we appeal it and human eyes are on the ad, they still say that it's sexual content. So it's been kind of a struggle. And to be honest, when I started the Little Milk Bar, the rules around breastfeeding on Instagram were non-existent. So
Right.
like when we were first posting, I say we, but it was me always posting photos of me breastfeeding Coda. They were constantly getting taken down. And
Oh my gosh.
so we fought. We put up a petition. We got like 25,000 signatures in a few days.
Wow.
And Instagram had to acknowledge what was going on. They had to hear us because we were being so loud. So we were a part of that change on the Instagram community guidelines that now allow photos of breastfeeding parents. And so like at the beginning, it was hard. It still is. Sometimes content will get taken down, but it was like, even just since Little Milk Bars existed, things have changed. And I like to think that we were a huge factor in that, because before
Yeah.
that, we would never see breastfeeding photos on social media.
Which is so
Even breastfeeding
crazy.
brands.
Yeah.
Breastfeeding brands wouldn't even post mom's breastfeeding in their products. And that was always so weird. They were always using the cover. And it's like, no one wants to use the cover. It is not
Right.
comfortable.
Exactly.
Okay. Some may like it, and you should feed however you feel comfortable. And if that
Right.
makes you feel comfortable, do it. But I mean, not one of my babies liked it. They hate it.
Yeah.
They bat at it. It gets really hot, especially in the
Yeah.
summer. And you look in
Oh,
there and they have little beads of sweat all over their face because they're constantly
oh,
breathing in the same air. But
horrible.
anyways, yeah, so now I see breastfeeding everywhere, which is great. So it means
Yeah.
it's working.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, there's so many things I want to touch on in that. Do you think part of it too, is just like where my mind always goes with like big pharma and companies and stuff, is like people have their hand or money in like formula companies, so they want to like steer away from breastfeeding, or you think it's
Absolutely.
mostly, yeah, okay. I'm like, I feel like that's
I
probably
think it's
part of it
all of it.
too.
It's
Yeah,
like it's the perfect storm in all of it. So
right. Which is
it's
so crazy. Um, okay, so I want to touch on the unmedicated birth for a second too, and then talk about like when you actually started Little Milk Bar. I'm personally heading into this birthing experience, planning to go unmedicated. I've been doing like a hypno babies course, like I have a doula, all the things. So
yeah.
what I want to know, because I think it is really important to talk about this, because like you said, there are so many birthing horror stories, which obviously exist, like you said, but since you do have this experience, I just want to talk about it quick so other people can hear that like it's possible. Other people, including myself. So did you have a different experience with Allie, your first, than you did with
Yeah.
Coda? Because I know you said Coda was unmedicated and like it wasn't that horrible experience. And if it was different, like what did you do that you feel like made the experience so different?
Yeah. Well, first of all, when I got pregnant with Allie, I will say I was completely terrified the entire 9 months. Every
Mm.
single day that passed, I just kept thinking, I have to birth a watermelon out of my vagina. And how does like I was literally scared. Like it's scary.
Yeah.
It's a scary thought.
Yeah.
So my plan was to go unmedicated with her, although I didn't educate myself at all. I didn't take any classes. I just thought like,
Mm.
oh, I could do this. I'm a
Mhm.
strong woman.
I got
um,
this.
yeah. I was at the hospital. I think I labored for about 14 hours unmedicated. And then I was like, I'm done. I'm tapping out.
Yeah.
Pete, go get my epidural.
Yeah. I'll be
So,
here waiting.
and that was frustrating for him too, because he didn't know how to be helpful like he wanted to be. He was an
Hmm.
amazing support system, but he didn't know how to be supportive. So he's like, do you need ice? Do you need water? What can I do? And he was there every step of the way, but he wasn't quite sure what to do either. So anyways, I ended up getting the epidural and we had her, and it was, I will say it was the worst experience. I did not enjoy it at all. It was
Mm,
very hard. The epidural part was hard. I couldn't feel anything. They're telling me to push and I can't tell if I'm pushing. I don't know.
yeah.
And I was starving. They would not let me eat the whole time. I hadn't eaten in like 18 hours.
It's so
And
much. And
so
then they expect you to have energy to push. I'm like, how?
yeah,
You have no
it
fuel.
doesn't make sense. So then she was born, but the saddest part about that part, and I'll never forget this, is the moment she was born, I asked for the box of crackers next to my bed before I even asked to hold her, because I felt like I was gonna die of hunger.
Oh my
So
gosh.
my mom
Yeah.
hands me the crackers and I'm eating them, and then I held the baby.
Yeah.
And then they took her and did all the checks. So with my second, I knew from the moment I was pregnant, I wanted a different experience. I knew I wanted it to be more intimate. I knew I wanted it to be more um, personal, and I didn't want the experience I had with Allie. So
Mm.
I took a class, a hypnobirthing class.
Oh, amazing. That's what I'm doing. Okay,
I
good.
did the Curtis method,
Okay.
and me and my husband did it together, and they also teach your husband or partner to be the daddy doula, kind of is what they called him.
Mm.
And he learned everything he needed to know. He knew exactly the pressure points. He knew exactly how to tell if I wasn't being able to cope, all of these things.
Wow.
So we ended up doing a hospital birth,
Mhm.
unmedicated, and I had Coda in 3 hours. It was
What?
so
From
amazing.
start to finish?
Yes,
Wow.
it was unreal. And
That's
Pete was, I
amazing.
had a doula, but like, and my first baby, I had a OBGYN. Second baby, absolutely switched to a midwife. 100%
Yeah.
recommend. It was midwives are just 100% dedicated to birth and only birth, and they're amazing.
Mhm.
So I did have a doula, but we ended up not using her at all. My husband knew exactly what he needed to do, and she
That's
just stepped in
amazing.
if he needed to go use the restroom.
Amazing.
Um, it was so magical. My daughter was there. Allie was 5 years old. So she was there at
Wow.
the birth from start to finish. She announced the sex because we didn't find out.
Oh, I don't know either. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's so fun. And it was beautiful. I didn't feel pain. I felt pressure, but it was the most surreal feeling I had. So then when I got pregnant with my third, I was like, hey, we got this. We're going to do this at home.
Mm.
So we did a home birth for her. And every birth is different because no matter how much you prepare, we took the class again as a refresher. And we were like, we got this. Coda's birth was a freaking breeze.
Yeah.
Um, and then I ended up being in labor. I want to say it was like 36 hours at
Wow.
home,
So longest with your last.
longest. And it was the most intense. There was a point where I couldn't, like, it's such a mental thing. You learn to turn off, like, you learn to mentally zone out.
With the
And
hypnosis.
after, yes,
Yeah.
after so long, I couldn't do it. Like it was like, it just kept going. The labor just
Yeah.
kept going and it wasn't ending. And so I lost focus.
Mm-hmm.
And I still stayed in focus because if I didn't, it would have gone crazy, but it was just hard to hold on to.
Yeah.
So like that was the hardest birth I've had. That one was not painless. But it was the most magical. We had Allie and Coda there, and my mom was
Mm.
there, and
And
my
you stayed
midwife. And
unmedicated?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
it
Amazing.
was beautiful, but the hardest, like that one was the hardest, but wow, so rewarding. I ended up
Yeah.
doing, I can't, there's a term for it, but there's where something happens where contractions were coming, and
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden I didn't, my body just pushed the baby out without me knowing. Like
Get
I didn't
out.
even do anything. It was in one push. I just remember feeling a contraction coming. And then I just roared very loudly, like uncontrollably. And she came out in that one push. And usually, like the midwives didn't, like Pete
Oh
wasn't
my
even, he was
gosh.
in there with me and he wasn't ready to catch her because
Yeah. It was so fast.
usually you're like, oh, they're crowning or she'll
Yeah.
be wishes. But no, she went from like, we couldn't even see her head or crowning. And then all of a sudden my body, and there's a term for it. It like the body just pushed her out all on
Like
its own. It
releases
was
it.
insane.
Wow. That's so crazy. It's so good to hear like how different each one was. Um, because everyone obviously has a different experience, but yeah, thank you for sharing that. I feel like, I was said to my doula the other day, I was like, I'm actually excited to go and to give birth. I'm like, I know that sounds so crazy, but I'm just like excited to experience it, to see like what it's going to be like. And I just feel like it's going to be so empowering. Obviously, I don't know what to expect. This is my first, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to have that mindset going into it because I feel like obviously the mind controls like so much
Oh, yeah.
of what's happening.
I
So,
love that
okay,
you're excited. Not very many new moms can say that. So that's
yeah,
amazing that you're
I think the
excited.
hypno course is helping because I listen to affirmations every day about like how
Yeah.
it's natural, normal, like all these things to help
Yeah.
with the fear because it's true. Like that fear is real if you don't work on it because you're like, holy shit, like there's only one way this is gonna be
Yep.
happening. Like there's no turning back. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Mhm.
Okay, so the little milk bar, when did you actually start that? Like how many years ago did you start that? And yeah, like what has it like turned into? What that process look like?
So it was shortly after Coda was born, and it was
Okay.
in April of 2018.
Okay.
Um, I was at a friend's wedding actually, and I was feeding him at the table, and my mom came over to me and said, "Do you think you should be doing that here? You should probably go to the bathroom and do that."
Mm,
And I remember looking at her and I was thinking, if you had said this to me 5 years ago with Allie, I would have gotten up mortified in tears, went straight to that bathroom and fed her
yeah.
and cried the whole time. And so I was like, thank God I have more confidence this time around. And instead I just looked at her and I said, no, we're good. We're comfortable
Yeah.
where we're at. And that was it. But on the
What
way
made you
home,
build up that confidence? Sorry to interrupt. How did you build that up with your
um,
second?
just knowing, like, I got into the mindset of realizing that nobody, especially a stranger's opinion, matters before my baby's basic needs. So I
Mm.
feel like once I broke it down to that mindset, I was like, that totally makes sense. I don't care what that guy, which I probably don't even know his name, cleared on the other side of the grocery store, thinks about me feeding my baby, because I'm never going to see him again. And plus,
Right.
she's starving. This is literally how she survives every day. She doesn't eat food. She's
Right.
feeding from my breast. And so her needs are 100% my focus and all that matters. And once
Mm.
I made that connect, I was able to easily like not give a flying F what anybody else thought.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Sorry to interrupt, but that's so powerful.
That's
Okay.
okay.
So you were leaving, then you were leaving the wedding.
Yeah, so we left the wedding, and on the drive home, because before the Little Milk Bar existed, I had a company where I actually was cutting and sewing baby leggings, and I sold them on Etsy.
Oh, so you were still in the
And
baby world.
so, yeah, still in the baby world. And I was like, you know what? Like, there needs to be a brand out there that just lets mom know, one, their rights, and
Mhm.
and two, give them permission. Sometimes you
Seriously.
just need that friend at the dinner table to say, hey, you don't have to go feed in my room. You can feed right here. We don't care. And
Yeah.
that right there relieves so much stress. And so it's like, I want to be that friend for
Mm.
every mom in the world who's terrified to feed in public.
Mm.
So, so I went home and kind of like decided I was going to come out with this baby blanket, and it had boobs all over it.
I love it.
And we released that, and we sold out in like 24 hours.
Get
So we
out.
doubled up our inventory and then sold out in 48 hours. And I was like, you know what? We are going to redirect.
Yeah.
Like,
Weird pivoting.
the yeah, I'm like, people need this obviously as
Yes.
much as I need this. Like it was important and something that I felt very, connected to. So, and obviously other moms need it too. So I kind of let go of the baby leggings, rebranded to the Little Milk Bar, and then we released our Milk Maker t-shirt. And then that's kind of what exploded everything. We sold out 24 hours, sold out in 48 hours. Like every time we released it, it just kept selling out. So we just kept going since from then. And now we
Wow.
have like we just released our alumni merch, our Milk Maker alumni, a retired Milk Maker,
I
and
love
we've
that.
got our own reusable nursing pads, which are great. And then we just released our Alley Bra, and
Did
now
you
we've
name
got
that
some more things.
after your daughter?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
I love it. It's so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah, it's perfect. It's like literally I came up with it after I had Frankie. I was laying in bed with her and she was brand new. It was like she was just like a few days old, and I was like, gosh, like when you're postpartum, your boobs get engorged, they're leaking
Mm.
all the time. So when you go to bed, you can't go to bed without a bra on. But
Right.
that sucks because you just want to feel
Oh,
naked. Like you don't want
yeah.
anything touching you. You're hot, you're sweaty, you're feeding this baby all night,
Mm.
and they only had like these nursing bras that like were so uncomfortable and had these clips that you clip down and
Right.
up. They just didn't feel good. And so I was like, I just want something that I feel like I'm wearing nothing. So I feel naked, but I
Hmm.
could pull it down, I could pull it up, or I could
Yeah.
unsnap it if I needed more room, because you're constantly changing the position you're feeding in depending on like
Mm.
where you're sleeping, how you're out with your baby. And
Right.
so I came up with the alley bra, and I named it after my firstborn.
I love that. It's so cute. I'm 100% ordering that. Because the nursing bras, I'm like with the clips, they're like fine, but I'm like, I'm not sleeping in that. That's definitely not something I want to
No,
be sleeping in. I don't want
yeah,
to sleep
you
in a bra
have
at
to.
all, but if I have to, it has to
No,
be
yeah.
comfortable. So that's amazing that you created that. I love it. Um, okay, so you were talking about like breastfeeding in public and how you switch your mindset to like, I'm never going to see this person again, so like who cares? It's my baby's basic needs. Was there a different type of mindset around like family and people who you did know and you were going to see again if they didn't feel comfortable with you like breastfeeding in the middle of the living room, if it was like your father-in-law, your uncle, or like something like that? Did you have like conversations with them beforehand? Did you just do it and let them feel uncomfortable if they were uncomfortable? Like how do you recommend like going about those types of situations?
So I love this because I get this question all the time,
Yeah.
and everybody's different, but it's like, I did not give two flying fucks. Like, I don't know if we can swear
You
here,
could
but like,
swear.
No, I don't care. I'm sorry. Again, my baby's need comes before my father-in-law, who I see every so often. Like, no,
Mm,
like your priority as a father-in-law should also be your grandbaby's
right,
needs. Are
right,
like that should also be your priority. No, I didn't have any talks before, especially at my house.
right.
If I'm in my own house, there is no way in hell I'm going to feel like I need to leave my living room
Yeah,
to go feed in my room because you're visiting.
right,
Never. If somebody's uncomfortable, they can leave. That's
right.
fine. Um, there's times where I will say at the very beginning when you still kind of don't really have that confidence, it's a little bit scary, but the first time you do it, everybody knows from the moment you do it, like what to expect the next time they see you. So I have no
Mm,
problem if someone is uncomfortable, go sit in the other room, but I'm not going to. I'm the one
right.
that has a baby. It's almost like when you go into a bus and you see a mom holding 3 kids and she's got a brand new baby, you're
Yeah.
not going to sit down in her seat
Right.
if
Right.
there's only one seat left. You're going to
Right.
get up and you're going to let that mom sit down because she has her hands full.
Right.
Same thing. There's no difference. If you feel uncomfortable, then you can leave. She needs to sit in that chair and be comfortable. She needs to sit on that couch and be comfortable.
Hmm.
Um, and then like if there were any friends that were uncomfortable, then I didn't ever have a talk with them. But if they were uncomfortable, they left and they knew next time they saw me that I'm going to be feeding the baby. And if you don't want me feeding the baby, then don't invite me.
Right.
I won't come.
Right. So, right. So same goes like being in other people's houses. You were just like, I'm just doing this. And if they say something, like, did you ever have that experience where you were feeding in public or at someone's house and like not covering yourself and they said something to you, or you never had that experience?
I've never had that experience, but I have been ready. I mean, I've had people say, like in public, random people say something, but in someone else's home, it's their home. So if they
Right.
don't want me there feeding the baby, um, and they were to say something, then I would say, okay, it was great to see you. Goodbye.
See you
I would
never.
leave. And I know that I'm no longer welcome at your home. If you're telling me I can't feed my baby, then you're telling me I'm not welcome there.
Right.
So, okay,
Yeah.
goodbye.
So I'll see you later. I think it's
Mhm.
like the fact that you never had that experience. I think that just shows with like any topic when you're confident in your decision of what you're doing and you are just like you don't feel like you don't give off that energy of like, oh, is this okay or whatever. You're just super confident in it. Like people pick up on that and they are just
Yeah,
like, okay, I guess this just is what it is.
yeah.
So I'm sure obviously it's harder in the beginning, especially with your first. If it takes a little bit to like latch, it might not be as quick and easy to just like get them on. Um, do you have any
Yeah.
like tips and pointers around like what made because now you've done this with 3 different babies, like what is like the biggest challenge you experience with breastfeeding? And what would be like the biggest thing that you could recommend for like a mom who has never breastfed before or something like that to just like ease
Yeah.
the experience a little bit?
So one of the easiest things is to practice at home. If you've never done
Mm,
it before, like just while you're at home, practice maybe in front of the mirror. The hardest part really is getting them to latch because once they're latched, like you can move in whatever direction you need to. You kind of have your shirt or whatever, you're fine. Like the baby's covering your boob because their head is there,
right.
literally. So it's the latching part that I think most women are nervous about
Hmm.
because they feel overexposed for that few minutes that they're getting the baby latched. So it's like if you practice at home, if you practice in front of the mirror, remember the mirror is reflecting what other people are seeing. So
Right.
if you're standing in front of it, that's what everyone is around. And I think that you might notice that when you pull your baby up, their head is covering whatever it is that you're worried about showing. So when
Mm,
you pull up your shirt, no one's going to see that because their head is covering.
right. You
Um,
see it, but
and
other people wouldn't.
yes, exactly. And I also liked to practice in front of like close family and friends when they came to visit the baby. So I would
Mhm.
be in my living room, comfort of my own home, on
Mhm.
my couch. And like if it was a friend I felt comfortable with, or like my mom would come over, then I would practice feeding in public in front of
Mhm.
them.
Yeah.
Um, and the more I did that, the more I felt comfortable to transition outside of the home in front of people I didn't know.
Mm.
But to answer your first question, like what was the hardest? I think every single kid is different, whether it's birth,
Mm.
personality, or breastfeeding journey. It is crazy because I thought with Allie, I'm like, oh, I got it. I did it with Allie for 18 months. When I have Coda, it's going to be easy. But no, it wasn't easy. We had different struggles, and I still had a hard time getting him to latch. And then when I had Frankie, I'm like, okay, this is my third kid. It's going to be a breeze. I'm going to fly through that early phase of having sore nipples and not knowing what to do. But here I am. I was going through the same thing. I had sore
Yeah.
nipples and I had to get her to latch properly again. And it was
Mm.
like, it just all comes with a new set of worries and struggles. But I just want women to know, parents in general to know that like no two journeys are the same. Just
Mm.
because your neighbor went through it very easy and their baby's sleeping through the night at 5 weeks does not mean that yours is, there's something wrong because yours isn't. Like really
Right.
every baby is so different.
Yeah. Did you notice like, obviously with breastfeeding, it's like a supply and demand thing. I know you had a reel about that. Like when it comes to
Yeah.
milk production, like it's based on supply and demand, not like the size of your boobs or how like filled they are or whatever.
Yeah.
That was such a cool reel that you did. I loved that with
Yeah.
like the milk and the cup and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
do you notice like, or did you notice, maybe it's different, like you said, for each kid, like were you obviously feeding throughout the night for like a while? Did you do pumping? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, every journey was different. So I never wake up to pump. I always just
Mhm.
go around my baby's schedule, and my milk supply has always regulated around their schedule.
Mm.
So for instance, really quickly, Allie, my firstborn, started sleeping through the night at 5 weeks. We got lucky. Like
Yeah.
that was insane. And so I would let her sleep through the night. I wouldn't wake her up to feed her, and I wouldn't pump.
Mm.
Obviously you need to be in good contact with like your midwife and your
Right.
pediatrician and make sure like they're growing in on schedule, but Ali was fine. So we didn't have any need to do that. And then I went back to work 3 months after I had her. So I was pumping at work, but that was
Okay.
it. With Coda at that time, I was at home with him. So and he would wake up like 3 times a night forever. I swear it was almost until like 18 months, he was still waking up at night, and I
Damn.
would just wake up and feed him
Yeah.
anytime he woke up. And I never had a need to pump. Like, I think I had maybe 4 bags of milk in my freezer at any given time, and that was it.
Mm. Okay, that's good to
Um,
know.
with Frankie, because I think that there's like this misconception. You see all these moms having like these huge freezer stashes, and that you
Yeah.
have to immediately start pumping, or they will ask, at what point do I start pumping? And it's like, you never have to pump if you don't want to. Like,
Right.
you really don't have to pump if you don't want to.
It's overwhelming to
With
think of like feeding them all day and then also pump. It's like how you just would be
Yeah,
doing that all day.
you really are.
Yeah, even
You're
without the pumping,
already
you're doing it
feeding
all
all day.
day.
Yeah. Um, with Frankie, I never, I would attach the haka on the other side while she was feeding.
Oh, okay.
And I just wanted to have a little bit, again, with her, I never really pumped unless I knew I was going to go out of town or I was at work. But I would only have like 3 or 4 bags in the freezer for her too.
Mm,
And I just built that up by putting on the haka while I was feeding her on one side, and
oh,
it would just
amazing.
catch the drips. And then
Okay.
I'd switch sides and put it on the other side, and it would catch the drips. And I was able to, build a little bit of a like 2 bags full and put them in the freezer. So, um, like I have so many moms say, at one point do I start pumping and how much do I need to have? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it all is based on your lifestyle. If you're
Right.
home with the baby and you're not at work,
Mm-hmm.
you might not ever need to pump. If you're a working mom, obviously you need to pump while
Right.
you're at work every day to replenish your stash from yesterday. And even with that, I think women get scared and they're like, I have to build this huge stash for while I'm at work. And really, I only ever had, like when I went back with Allie and Frankie, I had like 3 days worth of breast milk in the freezer for her. And
Mm.
then when I was at work, that's when I was pumping and replenishing. So it was like I would pump for that day 3 times a day at work and send her with that breast milk
The
to
next day.
daycare the next day. And so
Okay.
she was never actually drinking frozen milk. The frozen milk was really
Mm,
just for that first day. And
mm.
then it was for like date night or whatever.
Yeah, that's good to know too, because also it's like that keeps up with what their specific needs are in the moment, because your breast milk will change like based on their like growth, development, like all of that stuff. So like, keeping it closer to it, I think that's so awesome. And it makes it less overwhelming too. Did you do bottles with them, or you always were just breast?
Like
Like obviously
I've
when
never,
they were pumped and stuff, like of course they had a bottle at daycare, but like when
yeah,
you feed them, it's always breast.
it's always breast.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just it's more work to pump. Pumping moms, you guys get all the praise.
I
Some are
know.
exclusive pumpers. It's a lot of work. And you
Yeah.
guys should be given all of the praise. You guys are doing amazing. I just could just latch her onto the breast and I didn't want to have to clean pump
I
parts. And
know.
I never like Pete, he only gets to feed the baby like when I'm out of the house.
Hmm.
Other than that, it's me.
Yeah. So then that in that case, you would like pump a bottle for him to do if you were leaving or
Yeah.
something, just like in that moment. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
amazing. So, okay. So tell everybody about like what the little milk bar offers. Really just like what you want to leave a woman listening in right now who maybe she is pregnant and she's like scared about this going into her pregnancy, going into her birthing or breastfeeding experience, or she's been breastfeeding for a while and she feels like she wants to be more liberated with it. Like, what would you leave, her with to just help her have
Yeah.
a little bit more confidence? And then obviously all the resources and products and stuff you have too.
Yeah. So I always say the Little Milk Bar has the best community on social media. Like
I
there is
love it.
no better account out there. Like our community on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of them, like we're also supportive of each other. We don't like talk bad to each other. Like we just are there for each other. There's times where people will reach out and ask questions in our comments and I don't even have the chance to get back and reply to them because so many other moms have already jumped in and answered
Oh,
with their experience. And
so
that is
amazing.
like the best community you can have, especially as a new mom, is to hear from other moms.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the Little Milk Bar, like we are all about empowering you 100%, however you decide to feed, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
We think you need to do whatever is best for you. I like our biggest thing that we say is it doesn't matter if you breastfed for 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years, like you did an amazing job and you did what you needed to do for you and your family. But I hope that like, and this goes with everything, it's not even just breastfeeding, it can go for birth or life in general. But our biggest tagline and that we stand behind 100% is to just remind people to use your voice, even if it shakes. We have
Oof,
your back.
love that. Oh my God,
Yeah.
that's so good. I love that so
Because it's
much.
scary. Sometimes it's
Yeah,
scary, but just know like that your voice matters and that like we're here and we're behind you. And
I love
yeah.
that.
And then I forgot
Even
what else I need to answer.
Oh
Sorry.
no, it's okay. No, it's okay. That's so good because even like the breastfeeding in public, yes, but also breastfeeding past one, people look at that weird too. And it's just like go to another country
Mhm.
for like a hot second and just like see what's going on
Right?
in other
I
parts
know.
of the world.
I go back to my family's from Oaxaca, Mexico, and when we go there, like everyone feeds. I feed right there, nobody cares. Like it's just
Yeah,
a completely different experience.
so crazy. The other question is what are your like products you have? Like if people want to like obviously follow you on Instagram, but also buy some of this stuff, like what do you have for us? Where can we
Sure.
find it all?
So we started with the Boobs Baby Blanket, which we still have. And that's kind of just a great reminder anytime you're scared out with your baby, or if you still are using a nursing cover like that, we kind of use that as a nursing cover because it's like people know you're doing it for you. Because there's boobs all over it. You're showing boobs regardless.
Yes. I
So I'm
love
not
that.
covering myself for you. I'm covering myself because that's how it makes me feel most comfortable.
Oh, I
And then
love
we have
that.
like our milk maker t-shirts, which are awesome. And here's the biggest thing is like, there's this whole nursing friendly industry out there that we just don't love because
Mm,
it's like, You don't have to buy a whole new wardrobe. You can buy
Right.
whatever you want and feed in whatever you want to. And so that's what
Yes.
our shirts is, regular everyday mom wear.
Mm.
And then we have our reusable nursing pads that are amazing and so soft against your breast and nipples. So you're not like, sometimes they could stick. I've used some where it sticks to your nipples and you have to pull it off
Oof.
and it just hurts.
Oh God.
Ours are so soft and amazing. But
Okay.
our biggest
Amazing.
is our nursing bras, our alley bras, and those are just taking off like wildfire because there's nothing like it out there on the market. They're amazing. They will change your life and they're so stinking cute. You can wear them
They're
after breastfeeding.
so cute.
Think of all the nursing bras that you'll buy and then
You'll
like
never wear.
you are done breastfeeding and what do you do with your nursing bras after? You can't keep them because there's
Yeah.
no use. But alley
Yeah.
bras you can wear with like a jacket
I was gonna say it looks like a
or
tank top almost, like a not like
yeah.
it's not like a long tank top, but like it's cute. It's so cute.
Yes, it's so cute. So yeah, that's and we have like two more amazing products that we're going to be releasing this year that I think is really going to change the game. Where I basically the little milk bar, like I am sick and tired of men running these companies that are telling
Oh,
breastfeeding moms what they need. How do they know what we need?
it's
And
ridiculous.
yes, we're just sick and tired of people not giving us what we actually need and trying to market us with these crazy, I don't know, little milk bars standing up for breastfeeding moms. Let's just say that. And we're creating
Yes.
products that you actually need and are useful.
Yes, and made by women who know what the hell
Mhm.
you actually need, not by men. And when I see that, I'm like,
Yes.
a
Yeah.
man is talking about this. Like, I just don't understand how
I
that's even
know.
allowed. I'm like, that should be censored.
I know, right? I know.
Okay, Lindsay, thank you so much for your time, for sharing all of this. I know this is gonna be so helpful for everyone. Where can they find you? Are you the Little Milk Bar on all platforms?
Yeah, so on Instagram, we do have the in front of it. So it's the little milk bar underscore. And then on TikTok, we're at little milk bar, the little milk bar. Sorry, that was confusing.
It's
It's
okay.
always the little milk bar. And our website's thelittlemilkbar.com.
Amazing. And we'll, of course, put all this in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you are listening to this episode and you loved it as much as I did, make sure that you share it. Tag Lindsay at the Little Milk Bar. Let her know that you really found value in it. That's like the best thing we could do for our guests is to share it and just like get the message out there. Share it with a friend, share on social media, whatever. So you can help us get this message out. So again, thank you so much, Lindsay. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.